If you are just about to order a large electric SUV, then stop what you're doing right now. Because before you hit the order button, you need to know all about this car. This is the Audi Q6 e-tron, and I suspect it's going to be good, very good. But before I take a closer look, please do like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out, and it also means that you'll be the first to know when we get to drive this car, which is something, for a whole load of reasons that I'm about to tell you, I'm really looking forward to.
So, why do I think it's going to be good? Well, Audi says that the Q6 e-tron will redefine the industry's benchmarks in terms of performance, range and charging. Wow. Those are some very big claims, and they might be just a bit of an exaggeration. But this car does indeed have some very impressive tech, and lots of the bits in here will be used in other Audis, Porsches, and I would expect an electric Bentley.
So shall I tease you with some figures first of all? How about 388 mile range? Faster charging than a Tesla, and better efficiency than a big BMW SUV, and they're normally pretty efficient in our experience. It can also accept up to 270 kilowatts at a rapid charger, which means it takes 10 minutes to add 158 miles of range, and it can go from 0 to 80 in less than half an hour. For a car of this size and weight, those are impressive stats.
As the Q6 name suggests, it's smaller on the outside than the Q8 e-tron, but bigger than the Q4 and a little longer than a BMW iX3 and Tesla Model Y. Now, we don't know the prices yet, but the Q6 is likely to start at around £60,000. That's still going to be decent value though, given that a BMW iX3 starts at £63,260 here in the UK right now. And on paper, the Audi does seem to offer more for the money.
So this car will get a battery with a usable capacity of 94.9 kilowatts. If you do the maths on the claimed range of 388 miles, it works out at around 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is great, but it's not exactly groundbreaking. And we would expect that figure to drop in the real world. However, a couple of things have really caught my eye in the myriad of notes that I've been given about this car. Audi says that this car will be around 33% more efficient than its other battery electric cars. And that's down to things like making it as aerodynamic as possible, with inlets and surfaces that allow the air to flow over and around it. But also key is clever technology. Like, for example, motors that use less space and then weigh less, along with smaller windings operating those motors, which again save on weight and are more efficient. And the claims around regenerative braking are interesting and really caught my eye, because there's been an increase in the efficiency of the recuperation of that energy that's normally lost in braking. So around 95% of that energy can now be recovered through regenerative braking. If all that turns out to be true, I think it could add together to see some really impressive real-world range figures. And if we get anywhere near the claimed ones, then I think this starts to become a really interesting car.
So come on, what do you think of the way it looks? For me, it looks very Audi. It's exactly what you'd expect from them, and it's not going to scare anyone off. But as always, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Let us know in the comments below.
I think one of the real standout features of the design is the lights. They're just lovely, aren't they? They use a matrix of LEDs, which makes it easier to see at night and avoids dazzling other drivers, which is clever, of course, but nothing really new. What takes them to the next level is round here at the back, because there's a whole cluster of them that makes different patterns. They can change into different configurations and do really useful things like give an alert to warn a cyclist if somebody is opening a door. Owners can choose the appearance with different animations. So you've got a standard one, but there are 6 other signatures for the daytime running lights and the rear lamps, which you can choose on the car's app. You can go for things like a welcome display as you approach your Q6, something that's personal to you, which is quite cute, isn't it? In fact, it's a very similar idea to the lights on the new Mini Countryman, which basically do the same thing, which might annoy Audi a bit because they're very proud of the lights.
You will have to pay for some of them though using the Audi app, and you'll be able to change them or upgrade later for a change for maybe a special occasion. A bit like when we used to all download ringtones for our Nokias, if you are old enough to remember that.
So inside, there's a new generation of Audi interiors that will be seen across other cars. They say that it is human-centric. I think what they mean is that it does seem to kind of flow around the driver, particularly in the way that this dual screen curves around you, and then you've got that separate screen over there for the passenger. More about that in just a minute. Yeah, I really like the feeling of the interior. I love the way it's all tied in with this light that runs all the way around the top of the dashboard. Does clever things. So the section here will flash if a car's going past, or a cyclist or a pedestrian, and you're about to open the door. And you can change the lights quite easily in here. Let's have a go at this. Oh, what should we do? Interior lighting. Oh, I'll have it purple to match my jacket. Yes, let's go purple. I like that. Just playing around with this. It's the first time I've seen it. It's a new generation again of the operating system, new software. It feels just really crisp and clear, and navigating around it is very responsive. So yeah, I like the system here a lot. I also really like the use of fabric in here. So often we see really hard surfaces in an Audi, loads of black gloss, and I think it's a really nice, refreshing change to see this extend from the door panels right the way around the front of the dashboard, and here on the seats, and also on the centre console. It feels a bit homely in here. Not sure homely is a word I should use inside an Audi, but it does give it a more comfortable feel. Okay, let's turn now to the screens. Have a look what we've got. They are an OLED screen, and straight away the visuals are really nice and crisp and clear. The colours are vibrant. The colour black is really black, which sounds silly, but it is. Yeah, you've got dual screens here, and they combine to make one really big 14.5-inch touch display. In front of me, I've got Audi's virtual cockpit, which we're familiar with from their previous cars. That's got all the driver information that you need. You've got a second screen here with all the apps that you need, navigation, things like that. And then for the front passengers, there is another screen over here that I can't see. That's because it comes with something called active privacy mode, which stops the driver getting distracted if somebody's streaming or watching a movie or playing with their apps. So it's slightly angled towards the passenger, and all I can see is a black screen, and hopefully you can see some icons and things on it. And actually, cleverly, you're not going to distract the passenger either if they're watching a movie, for example, because if you've got navigation or you want to listen to something different, the speakers are here in the headrests, and are really hard for the passenger to hear. So it's some really clever stuff going on in here. Okay, let's have a look at storage. And I think this is where it gets let down a bit, really. So you've got smallish door bins, usual stuff here, a couple of like average size cup holders, a little bit of storage under there. I think it's a shame that they're not making use of this more, with perhaps storage, you know, underneath the console there. And here is quite a curious thing that I haven't seen in a car for a while. You've got a cigarette lighter, and that, I believe, is an ashtray. How very 80s. I also really like this, and it's very tricky to show you on camera. So hopefully by the magic of video, you'll be seeing some film of it over this. There is an augmented reality head-up display in front of me. So we've seen this on other Audi models like the Q4 e-tron. And what it does, it shows you information about the speed, traffic signs and navigation. But the really clever bit is that the projected image appears to be floating up to, I think it's 200 metres in the distance. That makes it easier to focus on when you're driving. And it's particularly easy, I found, in really bad weather. So here in the back is where you start to really feel the benefit from this being, you know, quite a long car, because there's loads of space. So I'm only 5'4", but there is plenty of headroom, as you can see. The seat in front of me is not set for me. It's set for Manos, who is 6 foot and likes to be quite a way away from the wheel. And as you can see again, You've got loads of leg room. I've certainly got enough, but you will fit much taller adults than me in the back here. And then there are some scoops out from the seats in front if you need a bit of extra knee room. Now, because this is all built on underpinnings that are made to house an electric car, it means that you don't get that centre tunnel. What you have got though is this centre console, which just protrudes a bit into the back. So that is going to have an impact on the space for whoever sits in this middle seat. In terms of fitting kids in here, the doors open nice and wide. You've got Isofix points on both the outside seats. I suspect you will probably get 3 car seats across here. I will have to get Nikki to measure it. We'll see if she can get her brood in here. But in terms of practicality and size for a family car, I think there's certainly enough of that back here. So the boot has got 526 litres of space, less than a Model Y and an I-Pace, for example, but more than a BMW i3 or even the bigger iX. If you fold those rear seats down, which you can do easily with handles here, that space expands to over 1,500 litres, and there's a frunk round at the front. You do get an underfloor compartment here, handy for keeping your cables in, but again, it's nowhere near the size that you'll find on the Tesla Model Y. It does tow though. Towing capacity is 2,400 kilos, about 100 kilos shy of the towing capacity of the Kia EV9 or BMW iX. At the heart of the Q6 e-tron is this. It is the car's platform. Now this is basically the underpinnings that goes under the car, and it will be used across a whole range of cars in the VW group, the next Porsche Macan, the Audi A6 Avant, possibly even a Bentley. So it's called the PPE. It has nothing to do with face masks, I promise you. But why it's clever is that it's been made with electric cars in mind. And that is good for 2 reasons. It makes the cars more efficient because it's been made to house an electric car. Also gives a bit more space inside. Clever, eh? So let's talk power. And the first versions will get that 94.9 kilowatt hour usable battery, which is pretty massive, isn't it? It's about twice the size of the pack in something like a much smaller Vauxhall Corsa, about a third bigger than the pack you'll find in a Model Y. So you get DC charging that tops out at 270 kilowatts. AC charging, well, that comes in at 11 kilowatts. Audi says there is no 22 kilowatt option yet, but that will arrive as an update at some point down the line. And on the subject of charging, one thing I really like, the dual charging ports. So here on the driver's side, you get AC and DC charging, but there is a second charging port over on the passenger side with just DC charging. It comes as standard across the range. And actually, it's far more useful than you might imagine. The number of times that I've pulled up to charge somewhere and it's not really been at the right side or it's been a bit awkward to get in. So this gives you loads of options. Definitely something that you'll use a lot.
At launch, 2 models with all-wheel drive will be available, followed by another with just rear-wheel drive. In this Q6 e-tron Quattro, there are 2 motors, 1 at each end, producing a total of 375 brake horsepower. The car will also give you a 20 brake horsepower bonus for overtaking or standing starts for a short period too. Audi says it's enough for a 0 to 60 time of just under 6 seconds. And if that's not enough for you, then you can splash out on the Q6 e-tron, which has 482 brake horsepower or 510 brake horsepower on that temporary overboost and can get you to 62 in 4.3 seconds. Other variants will be joining the range later, including an entry level with a smaller battery and a punchy Q6 e-tron Performance.
So what do you think, team? Because as I've said, I think this is a really interesting car. Of course, it's got those understated but expensive Audi looks, and it's very well put together, as you'd expect. But what stands out for me is that it's packed with technology that actually makes a difference rather than just being a gimmick. So we've already had a go in an early covered prototype of this car, and we were impressed with how it drove. And if you haven't seen that video, then do check it out after this one. Yeah, I think this will be a really interesting car to drive. Although, here's a thought for you. Would you rather wait for the Audi A6 estate, which will use all the clever hardware from this? but will be sleeker and more efficient. As a long-term fangirl of estates, that is quite a difficult choice to make. But if you want to be the first to know when we get behind the wheel of this and when we find out more about the Audi A6 Avant, do make sure you subscribe to the channel and switch your notifications on, because if you're into electric cars, this is the place to be.
So let us know what you think of the latest electric car from Audi in the comments below, and do remember to subscribe to the channel and switch your notifications on. Then you will be the first to know when I do get behind the wheel.